I remember the first time I heard the phrase colorblind racism. It was a little over 10 years ago, and I was working at a college, and a student was sharing a story with me about an experience they had in a classroom and experiencing colorblind racism. And in that moment, it really struck me because in my mind, it was two words put together that didn't make sense, because at that point in my upbringing, I was trained to believe that colorblind was good and then racism was bad. So putting them two together really created that moment of cognitive dissonance, and I had to explore a little bit. So I asked this person, tell me more. And they explained that when someone says they don't see color, that they don't feel seen, that they're not seen. So it really had me in that moment check myself and examine my own ideas and beliefs about oneness and equality, and how I was perhaps perpetuating this idea of being colorblind, of one human race, of I don't see color because we're all the same, and how I perhaps had been doing harm despite my best intentions, despite how I was trained in the narrative to believe that that was the right thing to do. So it allowed me to see things from a new perspective and to shift in that moment and to make a different choice. Because my goal is to see people, to truly see people, not despite of skin color or gender, sexual orientation, but to see the fullness of life and to honor it all as that unique being, that beloved before me. So although the idea of color blindness may seem like an all-inclusive, embracing idea of oneness, that I just see your humanity, I see your divineness, well, no matter what the positive intention may be, the impact of color blindness is that you don't truly see that person for the fullness of who they are. And it invalidates the experience that that person may have based on their race. Intent doesn't override impact. We must be willing to take responsibility for the impact we have and to be willing to grow, just as I was in that moment. And I didn't beat myself up. I learned something new, and I made a decision in that moment to see it from a new way and to move forward. So continuing with this idea of the garden analogy, imagine if there was just one type of flower in that garden, all red roses, and that's the only flower there was. Without any variation of color, that would be homogeneity. And we live in a world that is so abundantly diverse that without each of us expressing the divine in our own colorful way, it would be sameness. And quite boring, in my opinion. The science of mind, this wonderful philosophy here that we teach at Ahava, has a way of looking at this as well. So the science of mind teaches that each person is a unique expression of God, of life, of that divine source of spirit. And we're all created with sacred worth and value. So living from that awareness has the potential to transform our lives and the world. But colorblindness is antithetical to this idea.